Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a beer that I am really happy to be able to review for you here on the channel. It's not often that I get to review a Scottish beer for you here. I mean, in Sweden we only really get Innocent Gun, Brewdog and Belhaven, so to find these guys over here is a little bit of a treat actually, and I sincerely hope that you guys enjoy this review. I'm really excited to try this one. So for this review we are going to go to Edinburgh, the capital city, and we're going to return to a brewery that are very hyped at the moment, and quite rightly so in my experience. They're Scotland's first sour beer brewery, and this is the third review that I'm doing from these guys. So for this one we are going to have a look at yet another beer from Vault City Brewing. This one is called the Fermenter Blueberry. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a member of a new series that they've been doing where they go out and pick ingredients and then get them into a brew within 24 hours. So yeah, this one I think will be a really interesting beer. So this was released as part of the Thickest assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 14th of October 2020, and this is the very first time that I've seen these guys release a beer here in Scandinavia. I did see them at Brewskival in 2019 actually, and I went and spoke to them a little bit. So yeah, it was pretty cool to find another Scottish brewery over here. When I was home last time I picked up a couple of their beers to review. That was the Iron Brew Sour, which was really nice, and also the Sour IPA version 1, and since then they've released a whole host of different things. I was really curious about the Ribena Sour that I saw them review, but unfortunately I have no way of really accessing that beer, unfortunately. So yeah, this one, to find this was a real treat actually, and I was really happy when I saw this come through the Thickest assortment list. So yeah, definitely cool to be able to introduce this beer to you guys here on the channel. And awesome to see yet another Scottish brewery breaking ground here in Scandinavia. So yeah, fingers crossed this turns out to be as nice as the other beers I've had from Vault City previously, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vault City Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. When I go home at Christmas time I'll definitely be getting a few more of their beers, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That one is being added to whenever I get the opportunity, usually when I go home for a little visit, but not as often as I would like, because there's some really great beers and breweries in Scotland these days that I've still not tried, so we'll sort that out soon. But yeah, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. And yeah, like I said, very excited to see Vault City releasing their first beer over here in Sweden. I'm not sure if this is the first one they've released on continental Europe or if it's the first one in Scandinavia, exactly what it is, but you know, just very happy to see these guys breaking a little bit of ground over here, and hopefully we see more beers from these guys over the next little while. So yeah, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Vault City Brewing. So as I've mentioned to you already, Vault City Brewing are based in Edinburgh, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith Hay. So Johnny worked at the Hanging Bat, which is a really nice brew pub bar in Edinburgh on Lothian Road, if I'm remembering rightly, the name of the street, but I do recommend you go and check that out incidentally. But Stephen and Adele were regular customers, and you know, the three of them quickly became friends as a result of that. So Johnny was studying at the time, and he was also a keen home brewer, as was Stephen, and the two began sort of collaborating and then planning a brewery together, and Adele contributed a lot of the different ideas that they had to them, and you know, she eventually joined them. So Johnny was a great fan of the Belgian lambic beers and sour beers, and this really rubbed off on Adele and Stephen after a few tastings, and they felt that there was a real gap in the market for a sour beer brewery in Scotland, and because there just wasn't any. I don't think even anyone was really producing sour beers at that time, and this was the route that they decided they were going to take with their new venture. So initially they didn't think so much about making money, so they set up a what they called a kind of glorified home brewing kit in their brewery, which was in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. Over the last few years, they've been visiting a lot of different beer festivals, getting their name out there a little bit more. As I said, I saw these guys over here in Sweden at Brewskival in 2019, and they've been growing a hell of a lot ever since. They've garnered quite a reputation actually, and they're now brewing their beers as a kind of gypsy brewery at 71 Brewing in the old iron mill in Dundee. And as of October 2020, when I'm producing this review for you, these guys have produced 60 different types of beers, and the one that I would really recommend you try if you get the chance is the Iron Brew Sour, based on a kind of legendary Scottish fizzy juice drink, or soda drink as the non-native English speakers might call it. But yeah, that is the one that I really enjoyed. Their sour IPA that I had, the sour IPA version 1, was really good. They've got a Ribena sour as well, which I've heard is very good. I want to try that one at some point. But yeah, they're a very highly regarded brewery these days, and it's really cool to see that they're starting to expand and get their beers out there a little bit more. So yeah, I think probably these guys, because they are the first sour beer brewery in Scotland and their beers have turned out so nicely, and they are kind of growing very quickly. So yeah, really cool to see these guys release their first beer here in Sweden, and it's pretty impressive that they've done that in a little over 2 years actually, or maybe even slightly under 2 years, I'm not quite sure. But to release their first beer in Scandinavia after 2 years, I think, is a pretty damn impressive feat. So I'm really curious to see how these guys do going forward actually. So yeah, if you get the chance to try some of these Vault City beers, I would highly recommend that you do. Like I said, when I go home to Scotland in December, I will be trying to pick up a few of these in Edinburgh and Glasgow and things like this, as long as the COVID rules permit. So yeah, definitely check out these guys if you get the chance. But that's all I can really tell you about Vault City Brewery at the moment. The only other thing to mention is where they get their name from. That is a reference to the Edinburgh Vaults, which were kind of like medieval cobble archways, if you like, and these were home to like to taverns, little workshops, and also they were homes for the very poor people in the city actually. So the name Vault City is an ode, or a nod if you like, to the Edinburgh Vaults in the city. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, which is where they're most active. And you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, as I said, curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. There you can see the Vault City symbol on this one, just a little bit like the castle gate. But yeah, the artwork on this one is a little bit different, and I see that they now have their own bottle caps as well, which is really cool. So I will be keeping a hold of this one. I might keep a hold of this bottle actually, because it is quite cool to see this beer being released as the first Scottish sour beer released in Scandinavia. But yeah, modern sour beer, product of Scotland. That is pretty cool. Put a little flag on it, guys. That would be my advice for you. Put a little saltire on this. But yeah, it says Farm to Fermenter Blueberry. We want to shine a spotlight on the incredible fruit growers in Scotland in an ambitious beer series, partnering with local producers to time the brew days with their seasonal harvest and have the fruit from field to fermenter in 24 hours. This version is all about the hardy Scottish blueberry picked from Peter Marshall Farms in Angus. Angus, incidentally, the area north of Dundee, heading out east to Arbroath. Very historic region actually, and you know, some really good food from there. But they attribute their amazing berries to strict farming practices coupled with cutting edge technology, from farm to fermenter in 21 hours, not just 24. So yeah, that's pretty cool actually. I'll need to have a look and see what other ones they have. I would assume that there would be a strawberry and a raspberry one, because there's a lot of strawberries and raspberries grown in Scotland. So to get the blueberry one, to be honest, that's a little bit of a surprise, because I would always think, you know, it'd be the strawberry farms. Whenever I used to drive up to Aberdeen when I was studying there, we always used to go through the strawberry farms and raspberry farms in Perth actually. So blueberries, I actually didn't know that blueberries were so widely grown in Scotland, but yeah, nice surprise anyway. I do like a blueberry sour. So yeah, it says on the side here, this one's been imported to Sweden by Craft Craver AB, and it contains wheat and oats as well. So yeah, this should be quite an interesting one. So yeah, brewed at 71 Brewing in Dundee, as I said to you, 6.5% ABV, blueberry sour. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm really curious to see what this has in store for us. Oh, and it is good, there we go. So yeah, this bottle cap will be getting kept actually. Cool to see that they've started doing some, that they have some of their own bottle caps these days. But incidentally, this is a 375ml bottle, and I paid 79 or 80, sorry, Swedish kroners for this. So that is roughly about £8, which I think for a sour beer, firstly is good, and for an import sour beer is pretty damn good. So yeah, am I calculating that right? I'm just trying to think. Yeah, no, sorry, it's actually about £7, just over £7. I would have paid for this, about £7 odds for this beer. So I think I would have probably paid about the same back in Scotland actually. So it's quite surprising that this beer is quite so cheap over here in Scandinavia. But then again, you know, Systembolaget really keeps down the prices of these beers, thanks to the kind of socialised system. Just get the rest of that in there. That's going to calm down quite nicely. There we go. So yeah, I have to say this looks very, very nice actually. I'll have to admit, I would have thought it would have been a little bit darker with the blueberry, but it certainly looks like a very, very nice beer, and there's just a wee bit of sediment chilling there at the bottom of that bottle. But yeah, this looks like an absolutely lovely, lovely beer. That head's going to fade away. You can see this is poured with a big 2-finger, kind of pink tinted, creamy coloured head there. Quite a few little bubbles going up towards the bottom of the head there. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about the beer in terms of its appearance. In terms of colour, it's a very hazy sort of sour beer, this one. When it's got oats and wheat in it, you would kind of expect that. It's almost akin to some of these big gozes and Berliner Weisses that you get these days. So I'm not sure exactly what type of sour to expect from this one. Could it be a little bit of a Berliner Weisse? It doesn't have salt in it, which would be what defines the gozes, so it could well be a little bit of some kind of Berliner Weisse, but I think these guys have their own house yeast strains and stuff. These tend to actually be very smooth and kind of sweet sours, to be honest with you. If we think about the Swedish beer scene, in my experience, you could probably compare these to the likes of you know, the Pie series from Brewski, or the you know, some of the Morgendagens, some of the Fermenter, you know, these kind of things. They're quite sweet sours that you know, I don't think you could quite call these pastry sours, because they are a little bit, they're just a little bit sharp to be pastry sours, but at the same time they're quite smooth and quite sweet underneath, with the sweetness, with the kind of sharpness on top. But yeah, in terms of the colour, I would describe this one, oh, I don't even know what kind of colour to say that is. It's almost like it's almost like a slightly ruby-ish colour, to be honest with you, but a kind of murky ruby. I think that's probably the best descriptor we can get of it. A nice kind of murky, slightly ruby-ish colour actually. And you can see the head has just kind of normalised itself now. That's a solid finger of a kind of pink tinted, creamy, frothy head there. Lovely looking beer. If I stick my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is lovely and hazy. It looks like a very, very nice beer, this. Like I said though, I would have expected a blueberry sour to be a little bit darker than this. If it was a blackberry sour, yeah, it probably would have been, but yeah, it certainly looks very nice and a very attractive looking beer. So let's take a closer look at the aroma of this one then and just see how we get on. Oh, yeah. So straight away with this one, the two things that jump out at you, I'd say it's the oats. And you know, Scottish oats do actually have a bit of a distinctive aroma as well, porridge and everything like that. Porridge is quite a bit of a staple food in Scotland. But yeah, you get the oats out of this straight away, and you also get those lovely juicy blueberries out of it. And I'm surprised at this. As I say, I can't recall you know, making a comparison between Swedish and Scottish blueberries on the channel before, but I always found the Scottish raspberries were a little bit sharper than the Swedish ones, and the Swedish ones were a bit more juicy. But I have to say the blueberries, the Scottish blueberries that they have in here really smell juicy and not quite as sharp as some of the Swedish ones that I've had. So it's interesting to think about that. But on the aroma here, you can smell with this one, lovely big kind of oaty character. It almost comes across as a little bit kind of yogurty in its aroma, and I often find this with kind of oaty leaning sours. They almost give you that kind of petit filou, yogurty type aroma, and you get a lot of that out of this beer actually. You can smell some of the smoothness of the wheat. The wheat does have a little bit of bitiness and pungency right at the back of the nose, but I would say that the base of this beer is really dominated by that big, smooth, creamy, oaty character. And it really gives you the impression of a kind of yogurty type note, to be honest with you. As I've said to you before, when it comes to sour beers, I have always found that these aren't quite as complex. You know, the modern sour beers like this, they're not quite as complex as some of the other beer styles that you could find. The exceptions to these rules, of course, would be the likes of the Flanders Reds and some of the other Brettanomyces beers from Belgium, of course. But the modern beers, they're very straight shooting, I think, and if they're done right, they can taste absolutely beautiful. So yeah, this one, it strikes me as if it's going to be one of those, but a lovely big creamy malt base to it, lots of oats, it smells very, very thick, bit of white bread to it, little touch of wheat, and I think that just about sums up the kind of malty, the malty end of the spectrum with this beer. I think that's a fairly decent description of it. So yeah, the aroma to this is very, very nice. You do get a little touch of hoppy character out. This one, there's a little bit of an earthiness in there. You do pick out a few floral elements and a little bit of grassy note. I would think that this beer is maybe using some kind of German noble hop, or you know, it could be, you know, Slovenian Styrian Golding, or Czech Sats, or you know, Lubelski from Poland, something like that. It's some kind of noble continental European hop that's used in here, and normally what they do with these beers is that they add a kind of older hop that's lost a little bit of its pungency, so that it doesn't counter the sour aspects of the yeast, to be honest. So that's what you get a lot in this one. So I would say about that in this beer. So yeah, this one's, there's definitely a bit of that nice kind of bright grassiness there, a little bit of floral character and a wee touch of earthiness, almost like a slightly German noble hop quality coming out. So possibly Hallertau or Tittnanger hops in this beer, but the focus of course is on these blueberries, and they come across as really well rounded and very juicy, and you can tell kind of straight away with this one. This beer doesn't have any flavour essence or anything like that in it. It's quite popular in Sweden, I think, to put a bit of flavour essence in with the fruits and just kind of give them a little bit of a candied edge. But this beer, it's very sweet, but at the same time it comes across as really raw in the flavour, because you can smell that sort of brambly quality to the fruits there as well. So lovely big juicy blueberries. Yeah, lovely big juicy blueberry note to this one. You can smell a little bit of the sharpness to it. You might be forgiven for thinking there's a few sort of juicy figgy notes in with this beer as well, but yeah, the blueberries straight away on this one. I'm surprised at how juicy they are. I would have expected them to be a little bit more kind of pungent in their tartness, but I mean, regardless of that, the aroma that you get out of these is just absolutely lovely. So thumbs up to Vault City for the aroma here. Lovely juicy blueberries, big yogurty, oaty kind of base to the beer, and a little bit of a kind of nobly hop quality to it. So yeah, a really interesting concoction, this one. I want to try a few of the other beers in this series actually. I'd love to try the raspberry and a strawberry one, and I'll see what else they actually have. I'm trying to think what other fruits they grow in Scotland, maybe blackberries, and I don't know if we grow cranberries in Scotland, come to think of it, but yeah, I'll need to look up what other beers are actually in this series. But the aroma comes across as very straight shooting, but also very nice. So take a bit of time to mull that over before you taste the beer, but that's what we're going to do just now. So this one is the Farm to Fermenter Blueberry, 6.5% blueberry sour, from a new series of beers released by Vault City Brewing, based in Edinburgh, but brewing their beers up at 71 Brewing in Dundee. Really glad to see these guys making ground over here in Scandinavia. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, again, that's just a lovely beer from these guys. This is a little bit sharper and tartar than I remember their other beers being. Although in fairness, the other one, the Iron Brew, you would expect that to be more of a kind of candied, almost pastry type sour. And the sour IPA has a little bit more of a kind of hoppy edge to it. This one is probably the first kind of straight up raw sour, I guess you can call it, I would have had from these guys. But it is absolutely lovely. I don't know how many bottles of this were released in Sweden, but I had to go to Hansa in Malmö to pick this up. But these guys, as I say, one of the best Scottish breweries at the moment. There's some really good breweries at home, Dead End Brew Machine, Overtone, these guys out of the modern, you know, the kind of newer wave of breweries, if you like. Out of the older guys, Tempest are extremely good. 6 Degrees North, some great beers. My local breweries, Harveston and Williams Brothers, they are two of the more classic breweries. You know, there's some really great stuff. Fierce Beer are probably one of the better known kind of modern breweries as well. I'm surprised I've not seen some of their beers making it over here to Scandinavia a little bit more. I know you can get them in Copenhagen, but I haven't seen them in Systembolaget actually for quite a wee while. But yeah, there's some really, really good beer in Scotland these days, and you know, long may it continue. I hope the Scottish breweries get out there a little bit more over the next while. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer is it's lovely. It really is very nice and very juicy. I like the idea of this series that they're using all these local ingredients. That's one of the great things about craft beer, is that it is kind of so local. And Angus, where these blueberries come from, it is a very agricultural area, and you really get some great produce from up there. I think in Scotland recently it's been a little bit. The agricultural part of the economy has been a little bit, you know, put to the side, if you like. It's a bit of a shame. It's been a little bit underrated, if you like, or underappreciated, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So yeah, it's cool to see that one of the breweries, kind of up and coming breweries, is really keen to promote that. But yeah, this is lovely. So let's try and break down the flavour for you a little bit. It's a really juicy and smooth sour. It's very, very well balanced. It's got everything that you'd want. So let's take this. Let's break this down then. So straight away with this beer, you get a lovely oaty quality. The oats, I think, dominate the base of this beer. The oats give you that lovely, creamy, smooth base to the beer, and that blankets the middle of your tongue, and it spreads all the way back to the back third of your palate there as well. And the beer almost has this kind of yogurty, petit filou type part to the base there. If you go towards the back third of your palate, you can get a few little elements of a kind of bitey, wheaty quality coming out of it, but like I say, the malt base for me is dominated by that big, thick, creamy oaty character, and it almost in the middle of your palate, it really becomes almost just a little touch oaty. You know, touch yogurty is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, it's a big yogurty, creamy sort of thing you get out of this. So yeah, the malt base for me is really straight shooting, but it works very, very well with the rest of the beer. By no means is this a pastry sour. No way. It's just got that lovely. If we compare this to other ones, it almost has a little bit of that kind of big, creamy Berliner Weisse type thing to it. But I wouldn't even class this as a Berliner Weisse. It's not like that at all. It's just very, very unique, to be honest with you. It's a big oat. You know, maybe we can make a sub-style here, the Scottish oat sour. Maybe that's a good way to refer to it, because Scottish oats are very unique, and I think half of the creaminess that you're getting out of this is because of those big Scottish oats that will be in this beer. Yeah, maybe that's something that Vault City can patent, is the Scottish oat sour. New sub-style, because you get Pacific Northwest sours, you get the Flanders Red beers, Flanders Red Ale, sorry. Why not a Scottish oat sour? I think that could be an interesting one. So yeah, this is a lovely, lovely beer. The malty side of this is very nice. You will notice that in the very centre of your palate there is a little bit of an almost butter candy type flavour. Kind of starts there, and that will be the boozy side of the beer. So yeah, lovely big thick oaty creaminess there. You can get a little bit of the wheat towards the back third of your palate, like I said, but yeah, it's basically a big thick oaty creamy sort of thing sitting in the middle of the palate there. So I really like how that goes together. On the back corners of the palate then, you get a little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you can feel, you get a little touch of herbal quality coming out of the beer, and you can feel more and more floral qualities coming out as you reach the front corner of the tongue there. But then as you go round the very front curve of the palate, the beer is just a little bit lighter and more grassy for me. Like I said to you earlier, this one has a definite vibe of German noble hop to it, maybe Czech Żatec, Polish Lubelski, Slovenian Slovenian Dana or Styrian Goldings, something like that, but it's one of these noble hops and a slightly older noble hop that's been put into this beer, and it works really well. But the fruity side of it, the sour side of it, this is what we should be focusing on, because it is, you know, farm to fermenter blueberry. That's what we should be looking at. So yeah, when you take this beer in, immediately you get a little bit of a bite, that kind of sour beer bite, but very quickly it really juicens up. You can feel it just coming in behind the front of your palate, and then it just spreads out, and you can feel that juiciness just creeping towards the kind of middle of your palate there. So even though this beer does have a little bit of a sourness to it, it's not madly puckering, and I'm just surprised at how juicy these blueberries are. I was saying in the aroma that you get a little bit of that almost kind of brambly quality out of them, and that's how you know usually that it's straight up fruit that's been put into the fermenter with this one. But you know, the way that the juiciness comes out in this is very, very nice. I'm actually quite surprised at how juicy these blueberries are, because I would have expected the Scottish blueberries, based on my experience with the raspberries, to just be a little bit tarter than this, but they're actually really nice and really juicy. I'm not sure if that's due to the freshness with which they've been put in the fermenter, or if it's just the certain farm and the methods they use, or exactly what it is, but this beer has a really lovely rounded juiciness to it, and that really suits the big kind of creamy oaty base that the beer has. I wonder if they have used a little bit of kind of oatmeal in this as well as straight up oats. It doesn't actually say on the side, but it just says, yeah, malted barley, wheat, oats, and hops. So yeah, but it's a lovely beer nonetheless, this one. Like I said, the sours from these guys are a little bit hard to compare to other things because they are just so unique, and I think that's one of the things that really makes this brewery stand out, to be honest with you. So as I say, thumbs up to Vault City once again for this beer. This is very, very nice. So yeah, if you are a big fan, probably the closest thing you're going to get to this are some of these kind of big lactosey, creamy Berliner Weisses, but this is it. Scottish oats all the way in this. Pretty certain of that. It's Scottish oats that are in here that are doing that, because this has got that lovely big thick mouthfeel to it. But it's a beautiful beer, and as I said, it gets a straight thumbs up for me. Very straight shooting. When you take this one in, as I say, on the kind of sour side of things, you get a little bit of sharpness there, but then it juices up really, really nicely, and you might get a few undertones of like fig, a little touch of a figgy note, maybe a little bit of a kind of strawberry-ish quality to the beer as well. You can pick out these little subtleties into the aftertaste, but these blueberries are really, really juicy actually, and it's just a lovely beer, this one. If you get the chance to try this, go for it. You will really, really enjoy this, particularly if you're a fan of the likes of Duck Pond. If you're a fan of Duck Pond, Morian Doggins, the Brewski Pie series, you are really, really going to enjoy this. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the tasting part. The mouthfeel then, definitely a full-bodied beer for me. One of the creamiest, one of the thickest sours that I've come across actually. Yeah, 100% one of the thickest sour beers that I've come across so far. In terms of the how do we say, yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel overall, yeah, big, thick and creamy, definitely full-bodied, and it's just, you can feel a little bit the cleanliness of the Scottish water in this, though. You really do get a little bit of that just clean mouthfeel sitting on top of that. But in terms of the malty side of things, as I say, very, very smooth, but thick and oaty and creamy. Scottish oats all the way, just kind of showing that kind of big strength and big boldness, which I really like. The hoppy side of this beer, this one's maybe going to have about 15-ish IBUs, 10, 15 IBUs, something like that. It's a very low IBU beer, this, but I do like the fact that there are hops in this. I've always felt that beers that don't use hop, they're just a little bit too sweet. I think you have got to have a little bit of earthiness and kind of grassy and floral notes in there, just to give the beer a little bit more depth, and that's what I like about this, you know. Vault City always use that kind of traditional German take. You have got to have a little bit of hops in here, and that's what I really like. But as I say, the sour side of this beer, it does have a wee bit of sharpness to it, but I find this to be a very, very juicy and very kind of creamy sour actually. It's quite different, as I said, to these big Berliner Weisses and Goses and things that you're going to have just now. It's one of the most oaty and yogurty, almost yogurty sours that you're going to come across. But it's a beautiful, beautiful beer. and this was a really nice one to try. So this is quite different from the other beers I've had from Vault City before, so I certainly look forward to trying more of them when I go home in December, and yeah, hopefully I can find them, because they are a little bit difficult to get a hold of from what I understand. So yeah, I don't know if I can buy direct from the brewery or whatever, but I might make a wee mail order to these guys just to make sure that I get some of them to review for you at Christmas time. But yeah, lovely, lovely beer this one, and I'm really glad to be able to have reviewed this one for you here on the channel. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. Very straight shooting beer, but just, it's one of these ones that's just beautifully crafted, and for me, that's what I like from a sour beer. I don't like mad complexity from the sour beers unless it's a Flanders Red, but this is just one of these beautifully crafted beers, and you can see, if you try this, you can see exactly why Vault City have developed such a name for themselves. So yeah, doing Scotland proud, we have to say. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Farm to Fermenter Blueberry, 6.5% blueberry sour, from Vault City Brewing, based in Edinburgh, but brewing their beers in Dundee at 71 Brewing. So yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vault City. So we will definitely return to these guys as soon as possible, because I really like their beers, and yeah, more Scottish reviews for you to come around December, January sort of time, so you can look forward to those. Thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Vault City Brewing. If you can, try this beer, but you know, pick something that you think sounds good from these guys, and you are in for a bit of a treat. At least that is my experience of this brewery. But yeah, thank you again for watching. As I say, check out these guys, this brewery and this beer if you can. This was just a really, really nice one to review, and it's awesome to have another Scottish brewery releasing their stuff over here in Scandinavia. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Make sure you check out Vault City Brewing from Edinburgh. The Farm to Fermenter Blueberry, 6.5%. Just awesome stuff. Cheers, slàinte, skål.